Welcome to the off-season here on the channel in the Wisconsin State Whitetails Dynasty. In the first season, we went 1-11, and we started out the season in a close one versus Tulane as we came up 1 yard short of tying it up and possibly going into overtime. But then we recovered nicely. We went against our rivals in Marquette and went on the road and beat them in overtime as Rodney Ross caught that one. 6'4" receiver as he earned a spot. He started out the season not even getting in the game and came in the last 7 games of the season and starting every single one of them. And this one came with a game winner. So going into the offseason, what we need to do, we need to find another guy opposite of our star receiver, Marlon Yarbrough. He broke out in a big way. He led the NCAA in catches and led them in yards by a wide margin. He had 1,681 receiving yards, by far the greatest receiver I've ever seen with 2 eyes. So let's hop into this offseason, and we start at the coaching changes stage. And look at this. Both our offensive coordinators and our defensive coordinator get fired. Terrence Miller and Ray Reid both lose their job to Tim Billings and Brent Davis coming over from their respective schools. And Terrence Miller, well, he was a decent defensive end coach, but he didn't really do much. And then Ray Reid, actually, I'm surprised at Ray Reid's firing. We put up a lot of points and actually passed the ball really well. But look at this. They bounce back really nicely. Terrence Miller gets hired as the head coach of San Jose State. Isn't that funny? In our San Jose State dynasty, he was our defensive end, and he has a terrible season on defense and gets hired as the head coach of San Jose State. That's just amazing. I don't know what they're doing in San Jose, but they're on something because look at this. Ray Reid gets hired as his offensive coordinator. Bruh. You just can't make this stuff up. I don't know what San Jose is doing over there, but they definitely care about their alma mater and the players that used to play for their program, and this is what they did. They hired them. So let's look at our offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator. Our offensive coordinator got fired from Army, so he's going to actually come over with the Georgia playbook. He was an alma mater. His alma mater is Georgia, so we will change to the pro-style offense. And then Billings comes over from Southern Miss as he got fired from there as their defensive coordinator. So now we will still run the 4-3, but he does use the 4-3 multiple, which is a little bit of a different playbook, but we'll have to see the differences, especially since we have a lot of new playmakers on defense. We'll definitely want to, adjust our scheme because, a lot of our guys on defense are definitely going to not be starting anymore. We're definitely going to have a new team. Rushing the passer is going to be key, especially going into this season with a bunch of new players and a lot of different players that can do a lot of different things. I can't wait to get going with this new team. It's going to be a lot of fun. But let's just look at our players leaving. Well, we had none because pretty much we were all walk-ons, and we did have a couple of juniors. So next year we will have a couple of guys graduating. But then we get some bad news. I thought we were going to get some transfers coming in because they saw the opportunity to play, but we had none. I'm actually surprised by that. So let's look at our recruits going into this off season. So we had a ton of commitments during the season, around 25 to be honest. We had 25 commits. So now that's left our board with guys that we didn't really recruit during the season that we kind of just left alone and just sat on our board the whole season and didn't put any points towards. And to be honest, we're behind quite a bit with a lot of them. So we decided to narrow it down to who are we going to go all in on, because we have all of our recruits that we wanted, but 3 guys that I did like: Dante Woods, Reggie Avery, and Russ Robinson. Also, Jeff Lewis isn't bad. I mean, he's an outside linebacker, but we do have some linebackers already set coming in as freshmen, so he's not really a necessity. We're down by 1,000. We're actually the only scholarship that he has right now, so I could go after him, but I don't know if I need him. What I do need is defensive line, so I'm focusing in on Russ Robinson. He is a JUCO. He would easily be our highest overall guy. He's a 2-star JUCO defensive end out of Springfield, Illinois. So I'm going to go all in on him. We are down by 3,000 points, and we are the one of 2 scholarships that he has, one to NIU, but he is 72% locked. So we will need about a 3,000 point swing. So I imagine that, this is a Hail Mary, but we might have a chance. Who knows? Reggie Avery, we're actually going to go after him too, because we are within distance of first place, and it just makes sense. Dante Woods, we're actually down quite a bit, and it wouldn't make sense to go after a guy who has a lot of interest already and is close to committing. So we do get some bad news. Russ Robinson does commit to Purdue, and it looks like Purdue may have went all in on this guy, because look, we lost by 5,000 points. Because we put 8,000, that means we would have been at least 3,000 over if they would have put 0 points on him. But it looks like they're up 5,000. So, I mean, they had to have gone all in. They had to at least go 8,000 or 9,000 just to get him. But then we get some more bad news. Reggie Avery doesn't come. Dante Woods doesn't come. Jeff Lewis doesn't come. Nobody comes. So we end up sticking with our same recruiting class. We didn't get any signings in the offseason. That will peg us at 109. And I can't lie, I'm not mad at this, because we had a ton of recruits, and what we wanted to do in this first season in recruiting was just get depth. If we could just get depth and just, figure out red shirts and all that later, and just create, just depth that we can kind of rotate in, kind of like Rodney Ross situation. I mean, this guy was just there for depth in our first season, and he ended up being a good player, a good starter. That's what we want. We just want guys that maybe can step in when other guys are struggling. So then we move into the position changing phase. And Rodney Ross, we floated it around during the season last year. He's 6'4", 6'5", actually, 222. And we thought we can change his position over to tight end, but he would actually be worse. So it just wouldn't make sense. Maybe I'll line him up at tight end in certain packages, but we are going with a new playbook in Georgia, so we'll have to see how that would look. So we recruited Derek Impinto as a middle linebacker, but he is actually better as a left end, so I actually do line him up at end. Justin Jameson, he's another guy who's going to switch his position. He moves over to the defensive tackle, because Mike Mack definitely had a couple of games at the end of the season that he was decent, but not consistent enough to be the full-time starter. So I am going to put Justin Jameson there and see what he can do. He actually has better ratings across the board than Mike Mack, so it definitely will be an upgrade at defensive tackle. Patrick McGee was a safety that I did not talk much about in recruiting, but he did end up committing to us, and he's a decent, bigger safety, 6'2", 197. And at left outside linebacker, he's going to be asked to cover a lot of running backs and even some tight ends. So I actually like that he's got the athleticism of a safety. So remember during the season when I highlighted Howard Vincent, the punter? Well, I actually found out that I couldn't have played him either way, because when the computer generated the walk-ons for us, they actually generated him as a transfer. So he actually got to redshirt. So we actually get 4 years of eligibility out of him, and he is going to convert to a receiver, and he actually is our highest rated receiver, like I pointed out earlier, and that's going to be pretty fun to play with, a punter turn receiver. I'm excited for that storyline. So going into training, I wanted to see our quarterbacks just get better as a group. And Adam Miller improved a little bit, but I'm going to actually go over something later in this video with how I kind of gave some guys some boosts as they were overachievers. I call them super overachievers and overachievers. We'll go over that later. So going into training, Howard Vincent actually gets a lot better. He goes to 67 overall as a receiver, 81 route running. That is just amazing. He comes in at 76 catching as well. I mean, that is a huge boost to our receiving core. Don't worry about Marlon Yarbrough's ratings right now. You will see the true ratings later, because he is a super overachiever, which I'll go over a little bit later. Rodney Ross improves a little bit, but he does kind of get lost on the depth chart now because we do have Howard Vincent. But I did want to see some improvement from Javon Oliver. He is considered an overachiever as well. We only had 3 on the team, which we will go over in a little bit, but he does actually get better. I like what he did in the offseason. So looking at our offensive line, I definitely wanted to see some improvement here. We could not run the ball at all. James Little actually got better at blocking, especially at run blocking and impact blocking in specific. So I'm glad that, he at least improved. but we'll see if he does end up being the starter. I'm not sure if he will, though. On the defensive line, we didn't improve too much, and that's because a lot of our freshmen coming in are probably going to be starting on the defensive line, so I wasn't really expecting much out of that group, but who knows? I mean, maybe somebody can shine in season 2. Maybe they will show us something. I'm not sure. But Tucker Okonkwo is going to be the starter at right outside going into next season, regardless of who is rated higher or better, because I think that he had a good year, and I think he might be one of those guys that just plays better than his ratings. Put a good team around him, especially with that linebackers core. I think he's going to be good. Quintarius Jones is going to slot over to the second cornerback because we do have a new freshman coming in, Elgin Lloyd. He's a smaller corner, and we'll go over him a little bit later, but he's actually going to be moving over to number 2, Quintarius Jones. Doug Johnson, I wanted to see him improve overall because he's going to be still playing both sides of the ball, so I'm glad to see him improve. So we do have the relegation-style conferences in this dynasty, and the 2 worst teams in the Big Ten this year were Minnesota and Northwestern. They both get demoted into the American as Houston and Cincinnati get promoted into the Big Ten. So we get to face 2 new teams this season. I think that Northwestern actually is not on our schedule, but they are in the other division. So that will be some more competition for them. And then just looking at the Big Ten, you can see Cincinnati and Houston both move into the Big Ten. So let's check out our schedule. Last season, we actually had 8 road games and 4 home games. That's too lopsided, to be honest. So this season, we decided to have 6 home games and 6 away games. And it kind of wasn't our choice last year because we had a ton of conference games on the road. But this year, we will start out playing San Jose State. So we get to play our former offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator as they take over the coaching jobs there. And then we play Wisconsin and Colorado as our other 2 non-conference games. So then going into conference play, well, it doesn't start out easy. We play USF, who pretty much destroyed us last year, and then UCF, who is number 21 in the nation. But then we play Marquette once again on the road. And then we end the season a little lighter. We do get to play Minnesota, their first time in the American Athletic, but then we kind of end lightly with Memphis, Tulane, and SMU. So now let's talk about the overachievers and super overachievers. So every year, if we do have overachievers, these players will get a boost to ratings. But Marlon Yarbrough is in a special case, a super overachiever. What is a super overachiever? That means you get plus 10 in every statistical attribute in relation to your position. So Marlon Yarbrough gets plus 10 in catching, route running, spectacular catch, and catching traffic. Javon Oliver is just an overachiever, so he'll get plus 5 in all of his catching categories and also his blocking. So like I said, there will only be just a couple of guys like this every season, if there are any. It's only if you overachieve. Adam Miller is another overachiever, so he gets plus 5. So this season we had 1 super overachiever and 2 overachievers. So not every season we'll have them, but we can only have a max of 3. Just remember that. So going into season 2, we have some new blood. Jabari Blaze and Jacoby Beck on the offensive end will be immediate starters. They will be playmakers, and they will be looking to make big plays. They add speed to our offense, 1 at running back and 1 at receiver. Beck will definitely alleviate some pressure off of Marlon Yarbrough. Chris Coretta, he's a receiving tight end. So Javon Oliver is actually more of a blocking tight end. It just turned out that he was the only tight end, but he gets some help here with Coretta. Shaq Royal, he is going to be the starter at defensive end. He's got a lot of raw talent. He's very athletic, but we'll see how he does in his first season. He was our number 1 recruit. A guy that I did not highlight too much in recruiting, but is definitely our most important recruit at middle linebacker, Marvin Woods. I found out in this game that the most important position is probably middle linebacker. They will make the most plays for you. So we have 2 new starters here with James Chaney and Marvin Woods. I think these guys will definitely make a great 1-2 tandem, and I am really looking forward to them on our defense. At the secondary positions, we have a couple of new starters. Elgin Lloyd is one of them. Now, he's very, very undersized, 5'9", 165, but We need that coverage. We need that speed, especially if we want to keep up with these fast teams that have these receivers that are really fast. I mean, that's something that we got burnt on anytime they threw the ball. I mean, they didn't have to throw the ball last year because every team ran all over us, but we do need to make some stops here on defense, and maybe Elgin Lloyd will help with that. So let's go through our depth chart. No surprises at quarterback and running back. Jabari Blaze will be the starter. But at receiver, this is what it's going to look like. Marlon Yarbrough is going to line up as the #1 receiver, but he won't be on the outside. He'll still play in the slot, but on plays where we have 2 wide receivers on the field or even 1, he's going to be the one on the field. Vincent will get the start on the left side of the offense, and on 5 wide receiver and 4 wide receiver packages, he will be on the right side. Jacoby Beck will be mostly on the left side of the line, so I want to kind of spread the ball out a little bit, and he will definitely help stretch the defense. You know who gets lost in this offense now is Rodney Ross, because he's a kind of a loser here because he's not very athletic. He had a good season last year, but, you know, maybe he can earn some playing time back. We'll have to see, because I like what Angel Fabian did. He was just more of a security blanket. Rodney Ross was good. He just wasn't too athletic. So we have that athleticism now, and I just want to see what these guys can do, especially with these newcomers on our offense. Now, at the ends, we have some new guys here. Alvin Ebiselli is going to be the starter at left end and Shaq Royal at the right. Derek Pinto, who I did switch his position over to right end and left end, he will be a rotational guy, so watch out for him as well. Justin Jameson and Derek Pinto will be on the line, though, so Derek Pinto will play at probably the second defensive tackle position. I don't really know. He's not really going to play a nose position, but we'll see what he can do. I kind of want to rotate him around. I don't know where he's going to fit just yet, but I do like his potential just as more of an athletic guy on the defensive line. At middle linebacker, I highlighted earlier, Marvin Woods and James Chaney will be at middle linebacker, but actually James Chaney will rotate in at all linebacker positions, but Tucker Okonkwo will still be at the right outside. So just watch out for, some of these guys that, are going to rotate in and be good pieces on our defense, because we need to kind of come up with stops. We need to come up with creative ways to kind of create turnovers, create sacks. That's definitely going to be a priority of mine going into next season, because we could not stop anybody. I mean, anybody. I mean, everybody pretty much put up at least 35 points on us, and that's kind of sad. But I do want to highlight another freshman who I just did not speak about at all, Ryan Robinson. Now, this guy is a beast. He can tackle, and he's actually pretty athletic. 85 speed and 88 acceleration. He's definitely going to excel with his pursuit of the football. Definitely watch out for this guy. I think he can add some strength to his frame. He's definitely a slighter guy, but definitely watch out for him. He's going to start, and Cameron James gets the short end of that stick because he was the starter last year, but I can't ignore how good Robinson is, and he's definitely going to need to play a big impact as a true freshman. So looking at our returners, Jacoby Beck, no surprise there, is going to be our kickoff returner and our punt returner. So I did want to make a couple of changes going into next season. I lowered CPU QB accuracy because they made every single throw, and that's just not realistic. So I'm going to lower that just a tad bit. I don't even know if it'll help. We'll see. But then I decided to up their pass coverage and their interceptions, because I know some of you guys were complaining that I was basically completing a lot of passes and I shouldn't be dominating like that, but I wasn't really dominating. I was just putting up points because we were losing. But I just decided to listen to you guys. I did decide to up the CPU pass coverage and interceptions. So that's going to do it here in the offseason in Season 1. I am still getting the recruits done, so that should be coming out. The first game should be coming out pretty soon, but you definitely don't want to miss Season 2. This is going to be a lot of fun, a lot of newcomers on offense and defense. So hit subscribe, hit that like button. Going in hot to Season 2. Stay tuned. Let's get it. Let's go.